sang about his idea of the perfect woman. Playboy magazine gave us their version. Even Uncle Walt Disney spent a lot of time telling us that if a girl would only sit around and look pretty, someday her prince would come. While European women were sharing the arena with their male counterparts, Americans were going through a period of subtle indoctrination that changed the pioneer woman from a rugged individualist to a passive playground supervisor. This image is no longer acceptable to the modern female. Those who don't choose to participate in sports are ready to stand and cheer for those who do. And the question no longer is, should women compete in athletics, but what can the United States do to catch up with the rest of the world? The problems boil down to three things: attendance, space, and money. The university feels that the National Women's Basketball Tournament will do more to expose Minnesotans to the female athlete than any event in the state's history. The cost of underwriting such a tournament is tremendous, and in order to break even, they need 17,500 paid admissions. However, Women's Athletic Director Vivian Barfield is confident they will make expenses. It is hoped the tournament will draw attention to the women's program and some of the problems still facing them. One thorn in the side of Barfield is separate but unequal training facilities.
We don't share the training room with the men at the University of Minnesota for some unknown reason to me. I mean, I keep bringing this issue up, and I'm not really sure why we don't. And I know that we do need more space where we are, and it seems to me awkward to duplicate services to the extent that they would need to be duplicated to accommodate our people fully. I don't know it's a sticky wicket.
The women's training room is tucked away in the back of their locker room. The equipment is adequate, the room too small. Dorothy Cohn is the one trainer. She has no assistants and is presently training students to help with their duties. Like everywhere else, money is tight.
My supply budget for this year was $3,000. If I ordered everything I was supposed to, yes, I probably would have exceeded that. And sometimes it gets crowded when everyone decides to come in at the same time. And everyone needs help at the same time. Then it seems much smaller than it is. So I think it could be better. You know, if we look at what we had before, it's better than what we had before. You know, but probably things could still be improved.
In comparison, the men's training room is a palace, although they too complain of too little space, claiming 600 athletes to the women's 230, football accounting for a large part. They have 3 full-time trainers and 6 paid student trainers. We asked head trainer Jim Marshall about sharing the facilities with the women. He referred us to men's athletic director Paul Giel, who also refused us an interview. He referred us to Walt Bruning, Vice President in charge of administrative operations.
We're going to share facilities as much as possible. In the training area, I think there's some natural inhibitions that people have about males and females using the same areas for certain things. I don't think we've come to the point yet where males and females are going to dress together in locker rooms. I think there's some of that surrounds the training room problem.
Well, if my top track star wandered into the men's locker room, I might begin to wonder what's going on. But if my top female track star wanders into the men's training room, I would assume that she's there because she either needs a cold pack, a hot pack, a taping job.
It seems all, or at least most of the problems could be solved with money. This fashion show is one way of raising some of the badly needed financial support, but fundraisers aren't where the big money is.
We've got a request before the Minnesota legislature now for women's athletics that would really improve the funding base. During the current year, our budget for women is about $330,000. If we got the appropriation we're seeking, it would, by the end of the biennium, almost double that. It would push it pretty close to $600,000 a year for women. The people hate to talk about this very much, but the ticket prices don't go up fast enough to stay even with expenses. And we run a very tight ship. Paul Giel is a good manager. Bob Geary, as assistant athletic director, is very tight with a buck. And I'm no pushover either. Dr. Barfield is very frugal also. We raise a lot of money privately, but unless there's some change in the funding base, the whole thing can't go on much longer. I just don't see it.
There is good news for the financial future of women's sports at the U. A House subcommittee has approved Governor Perpich's proposal that would appropriate $660,000 to the women's program by 1979, double from what they received this year. Dave?
Good work, Mark. Al Austin has been viewing Mark's series with more than just casual interest. Al?
We wonder if you, along with us, were surprised to learn from these reports by Mark and Doug that the University of Minnesota Women's Athletic Program has 4 All-America swimmers, an Olympic gymnast, the Big Ten tennis champion, and the national cross-country runner champion. It's no wild speculation to suppose that if all those were men, we'd know more about them. Well, Arno Gaethel, the sports editor of the St. Paul Dispatch, believes that's as it should be. When you consider the women athletes in the light of pure athletic ability, Gaethel said, I'm not sure they should get so much coverage. When they get around to where they are bona fide athletes, we'll give them better coverage, but they've still got a long way to go, unquote. Well, wonder if whatever gave University Women's Athletic Director Vivian Barfield the idea that sports reporting has a male outlook. But condescension is not the only thing that's holding back news of women's sports. The Minneapolis Tribune's assistant sports editor, Robert Armstrong, says that that paper has been scrambling trying to keep up with women's athletics, that there's not enough space in the paper, not enough reporters, no women sports writers. He said he expects all those conditions to improve soon. But both he and the Star's sports editor, Dan Stoneking, made it clear that coverage of women's sports is not apt to increase drastically until women's sports has equal fan interest with men's, which seems to leave the woman athlete in the fix of having to get fans before she can get the publicity that may get the fans. Armstrong said he doesn't think it's the Tribune's job to create interest, but to indicate the interest that's there. All right, but in some ways, women's athletics just now is more interesting than men's because the changes and improvements are so much more dramatic. It isn't just games they're playing, it's something of a revolution. We hope that the rather extraordinary coverage being given women's basketball by most of the Twin Cities media this week is the start of something like a revolution, too.
Dave? We'd like to hear your thoughts on the Sharing the Arena series.